Hello guys and welcome back to another Hunter's Prestige YouTube video. On today's video we're showing you how to fit the integrated grill lights. So the first step of this fitment video is actually to remove the bumper. If you haven't removed the bumper before or don't know how to, we've recently released a video on how to do so, which is just up here. So watch that video if you don't know how to do it, and then come back to this step. Okay, so we have 4 different variations of lights available. We have the 25-inch in white and yellow. We also have the 10-inch in white and yellow also. Tools required, you may need a 6mm bolt depending on your model, 10 and a 13mm socket, a ratchet of some sort, whether it's a hand or electric, a wire guide, some side cutters, trim tool, either metal or plastic, some cable ties, a long and a stubby flathead screwdriver, and some masking tape. Okay, and this is how the kit is supplied. So you get the lights that you've ordered, as well as the bolts and the fixings, as well as a little Allen key. You'll know why it's a short stubby one shortly in the rest of the video. So the first step is to actually install one of the brackets on the end of the lights. So depending on which one you've gone for, what you want to do is just put the little washer on the end of that bolt, and then with the Allen key you're just going to tighten it on the end of that first light, like so. We advise fitting one bracket on each light, and if you have a 25-inch light, obviously you can fit the bracket on both sides. And again, not doing it too tight because you do need to move the light slightly. So there you go, lots of wiggle room on that light, so it allows you to move the actual LED bar into place. And we'll show you now how to mount them. So firstly, you grab one of the loose brackets like so, and you just want to place it on the outside of the camera, just like here. So it's on the first grip, and you want to put the bolt on there, just hold it in place. And obviously leave one space on the grip, like so. And the next bit's a little bit fiddly, actually, to get that bracket underneath the camera. So you may need to angle the bracket a little bit. It does take some wiggling to get it into place. And obviously if you're fitting the 25-inch, you won't have these middle brackets, it'll just be the outside brackets, so it's a little bit easier. What we're going to do is now tighten them, now you've got them in place. So obviously these are going to be very hard to actually access once these LED bars are actually fitted, so make sure they're nice and tight. Now you want to mount the end bracket, like so. Put the screw with the washer supplied, just like so. It's a little bit fiddly and there's not a lot of space. This is why you have a stubby Allen key, which we'll use shortly. But you can just get a couple of threads in on that bar in the bracket, like that. And now you tighten the nuts on the other side of that, using the 13mm socket. And leave them a little bit loose because there may need to be a little bit of a wiggle around of them shortly. Now with the other LED bar, we get that into place, and then like before, you want to install the bolt on the other end. Get a couple of threads in, tighten up by hand, and then on the other side you just want to put the nuts on that bracket also. Now this can be a little bit fiddly sometimes because there's not a lot of room to actually tighten these on, so you may need to angle that front bracket ever so slightly just to allow you to actually put that nut on. Obviously the design of these is to actually have minimal brackets facing on the outside or the front of the bumper, so they're integrated and hidden. So this is why you have 2 different brackets. You have a bracket on the front to actually have the studs poking through to the inside of the bumper, and then these brackets tighten, obviously hold it in place with the nuts from the inside. Tighten up those nuts with the 13mm socket. And you should now have enough space. And just try and get these brackets as straight as possible. And also make sure they're nice and tight. You check on the outside of what it looks like. Make sure it's nice and straight at the top. Just make sure that all the grits line up the same. Obviously we have left them loose ever so slightly, just so you can actually adjust them when the bumper's back on. So just tighten up all those nuts now, make sure they're nice and tight on the outside. This is the last time you're going to get to actually tighten them up. And what you want to do now, you have it level, is just actually tighten the Allen bolts on the end. Obviously keeping them nice and straight as much as possible. Obviously they will move a little bit when you try and tighten them up. Just put them back into place, or actually hold the light whilst you're tightening them up as well. That makes it a little bit easier. So this is why we supply a small Allen key. It almost looks like it's a cut-off end. And that is because in between those two brackets, there's not a lot of space to actually tighten it. So you may need to tighten one of the Allen bolts on the inside first, and then make your way into the next one. Obviously, if you do have the 25 inch bar, it may look a little bit different to that because you won't have the brackets on the inside, but the outside brackets are basically the same. This is what it should look like. Make sure everything's nice and tight. Next thing we're going to do is actually remove this top part of the shroud. So you have 3 clips which actually unscrew, and then with the trim tool you just release that clip. Be careful not to drop any of these into the engine bay. And then there's 2 flathead screws or bolts, sorry, that you need to remove. Now you can take that trim piece off, like so. So the wire guides you can use, we use a more firm wire guide, but if you have a different wire guide available, something a little bit more flimsy, or actually if you don't have a wire guide, you can actually use just a piece of wire like so. And what you want to do is get the masking tape and then attach it to the end of the harness. Obviously what you want to be doing is feeding the wire guide actually through the arch. So what you want to do is have the wire guide with a little bit of length on it so you can grab it, and then obviously you feed that through, or you feed the loom through. Where you actually want to be feeding it is inside of the wing, as you'll see shortly, just behind positive and negative here. And the idea is actually to feed it from the back forward, and we'll tell you the reason why shortly. Again, it can be a bit fiddly. Obviously this is, if you have more of a flexible wire guide, this may be a little bit easier for you. And now it's free. Give yourself a little bit of slack. Bring the rest of the cabling through. It's a lot easier to see when you're actually with the vehicle than unfortunately on camera. What we'll basically do is just get it behind those brackets that hold on the wing. Right, the next step is to actually feed the connectors from the wing to the front of the car. Obviously there is a little bit of gap just under here. What you want to do is actually attach the connectors one by one, because you can't get both the connectors through at the same time. You put the wire guide through, attach one of the connectors on one end, using a little bit of masking tape. And through the wing, you're just going to feed that connector through. Okay. Take that wire guide off. Then you're going to feed through the next connector, like so. until it's all the way through. Undo that bit of masking tape. And you're just going to give yourself a little bit of slack with that wire, pulling it down, because obviously the wire is actually going to reach to these lights. Like that. So we normally feed it through where the wire splits into two, and the rest of that slack, we'll show you what to do with that shortly. We advise you to remove this 8mm bolt with a 10mm socket. That just allows you to pull this bracket out and tuck that wire behind that, like so, and then retighten that with the 10mm socket. And we're ready to connect the connectors from the wiring harness to the lights. Pop them in. And then we're just going to tidy up the wires now with some cable ties. Just making it as tidy as possible. Obviously the last thing you want to do is fiddle with this. Forget to tidy up the wires, and the loose wires are making loads of noise, so we tuck them in nice. Okay, so we're now ready to put the bumper back on. Obviously we're not going to show you the full video of now how to put the rest of the bumper back on. We do include that in our fitment video of how to remove the bumper. So for now what we're going to do is just put one of the 10mm bolts on the front and actually put the quarter panels or the end corners on, just to hold it in place whilst we do the rest of the work. Okay, now down the other end, you now want to release the cap like so. So this is just above the red box. I'm going to take that off there, and you'll see these studs. Make a small cut on that box so you can allow the wire to go through. And on the top of the strut mount, we're just going to attach the earth. So what you're going to do is use your 10mm. You may need a deep socket for this. And then you're just going to attach the spade connector on that and then tighten that 10mm back up. So this is going to be for the negative, which is the black wire. And then the red wire is obviously the positive, which we're just going to put on here now, and then tighten it up with the nut supplied. And you have the fuse relay here, or the inline fuse. And shortly we will show you how to tidy that all up. Pop the black cover back on. It just clicks into place with two connectors either side. Make sure it's on there nice and tight. And we said in the start of the video you may need a 6mm bolt. Obviously on some models you already have a bolt in this one here on top of the strut mount. If not, you can use this 6mm bolt just to tighten that relay to the top of the strut mount. Like I say, depending on some models, you actually have that 6mm bolt already there, so you just reuse that existing one. Obviously this is just to hold it in place. We're going to test the lights now just to make sure they're functioning and operating as we should. And we're just going to now tidy up the remaining slack of the wires with the cable tie. Just making it as neat as possible, and we're going to tuck that slack on the inside of the wing. Secure it with some more cable ties. And around the wing. Now ready to mount the control box. There's quite a lot of slack on this, so wrap the wire up and then secure it with a cable tie. Alternatively, if you have some insulated tape or some felt tape, you can wrap around also. On the back of that control box, you have an adhesive pad. That's to actually stick it on the back of that plate, which we'll show you shortly. Just peel back the white cover on that. and then stick it firmly just here. Make sure it's nice and tight. And the remaining slack, we're just going to attach that to the back of that with some cable ties shortly. Any loose wires now, we're just going to tidy up as much as possible, bunching it together and then securing it with a cable tie. Obviously, we do use quite a lot of cable ties in this installation, so it's completely down to you how many cable ties you use, but we use quite a few just to make it as neat as possible. You may notice that you're left with a connector. Don't worry about that. We don't actually use this in this instance. We just wrap this up with electric PVC tape. Tuck that wire just underneath that little bit of shroud there. Obviously the rub casing goes over the top of that. Just check around, make sure those wires are nice and clean. And then we're going to reinstall the top part of the shroud. And this actually goes underneath the other side. And then you can put in the clips and also the bolts also. So at this stage, the bumper is currently still off. So if you want to skip to how to actually put the bumper back on, please go to 1643 on our fitment video. And the last thing we're going to do is actually align these lights using the long flathead screwdriver. Alternatively, you can drive it up to a wall and get it aligned as much as you like. Or alternatively, we put something in front of it, like so. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys. And if you've got any questions on how to install this product, please get in contact with our sales team. We're happy to answer any questions. See you on the next video, and don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and hit that bell notification to stay up to date with all our new videos.